the ACCs is a 20-year escalating deal. So the problem with the ACCs, and Florida State presented some very convenient full-term deal numbers today to their trustee. Florida State's numbers today to the trustees were definitely a little eye-rolling in how they chose to do them. They're very selective, we'll say. The ACC deal really, in order to equate it to the Big 12 or the Pac-12 or the Big 10, you can't look at the 20 years. You have to look at the 6 years that are the same 6 years that we're talking about here. In that case, and Tide Guy knows exactly a little bit better, but we've been told by ACC people that they expect that number is about $34 million a team per year.
$30.3 million they got last year. Now next
and it goes
year,
up.
It's going to $31.9 million, and then it's going to $33 million. So every year it's going up. Where when people are doing the math, they just, like the Big 12, they say this is the average. Well, actually, in year one, the Big 12 is not 31.7. It's lower because it's going to average there, and eventually it'll go over that. But the ACC right now actually has a better deal than the Big 12 when you look at where they're at in their contract.
It's going to keep going up.
And I love the Big 12. I grew up right outside of Ames, Iowa State. My family went to Iowa State. I've got a lot of donors to that school. Unfortunately, we all laugh at the ACC. Hey, they locked in a deal 10 years ago, and they're not making anything. But the Big 12 just signed a deal that's making the same amount as the ACC. And unfortunately, the Pac-12 is going to sign the same deal. I mean, they're all going to be within a couple $1 million of each other. There's not going to be real groundbreaking difference.
Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford appeared at the Board of Trustees meeting and basically said, hey, this is the financial situation that we find ourselves in from a football standpoint versus what the Big Ten and the SEC have recently signed. And this is how far we're going to continue to fall behind year after year after year, 30 million plus 30 million, and continue to do the math going forward. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. We are one of the big brands in the conference. We bring power. We bring ratings. Roughly 15% of the, Tony's got the TV viewership there. In the article that I cited, 15% of the revenue from a football standpoint comes from Florida State, and they only get paid out 7% per team. Do the math, 14 times 7%, roughly 98%. There you go. So he had proposed an unequal revenue split, a brand with the power and the revenue and the TV ratings of a Florida State would get paid more than Duke, Syracuse, Wake, fill in the blank. And so that's what was proposed. And certainly there were questions coming back from the likes of Vice President of Legal Affairs and General Counsel Carolyn Egan saying, well, if we do the rough math, can we pay out this grant of rights remaining contract at $120 million? Can we make up for that in 4 seasons of football? And if we would leave the conference?
So according to Travis Kenobi, who is, where is he from? What shows he's with their West Virginia show.
Yes. Last Word on College Football.
And Travis Kenobi is a attorney who works in these contracts. I'm not a contract attorney, and I have not reviewed the ACC's grant of rights. However, Travis has, and Travis is one of our great people here in the Voice of College Football community. And Travis says that this is not really a breakable document. It's essentially written very poorly to make it almost unbreakable. And so somebody made a comment. They're like, "Oh, contracts have provisions." Like, this one is intentionally written poorly to make it not very breakable. And the interpretations that I have been told is that the $120 million is the exit fee, but then you still haven't solved the massive amount of the grant of rights, which could be hundreds of millions of dollars more. So unless someone is a contract attorney and they are telling you about who has reviewed the ACC grant of rights, which I can tell you most of these people have not, they don't really know what they're talking about. And so it's very interesting to sort of hear the Florida State people say that when we've been told by lots of very expert people who have reviewed this over and over, not just Travis, but in the media, there have been people that have done that that it is not nearly as easy to get out of as she said. I mean, I'll be honest. So I like to tease my friends in Texas. I have a lot of friends from UT, and they joke. This is one of my favorite lines, that they were hoping their state legislature would declare the Big 12 to be an abortion so that then they could just get out. And they were like, that's how we'll solve it. It's what it was from my Texas friends. It's why, we tease them back and forth on that. If Texas couldn't get out of the grant of rights, which is essentially the same document, I think they actually copied and pasted large parts of it. So if Texas couldn't get out, then let me promise you Florida State can't get out, because Texas knows no bounds in shadiness of operations. So again, the people that sort of know this stuff tell us that it's not really realistic. Florida State would love to join the Big Ten because there's a lot of money there, but I don't really see how they do that. Do you guys want to take a look real quick at the weird situation with the TV viewership numbers? Again, I'm just being a vessel of Travis. This is not Tony saying this. This is travel. This is Travis. Yeah, the amount gets less, because it's a lesser time that you're doing it, but it's still really, really hefty.
Okay.
And so, actually, and we were just getting to this. We got T-Mac, who's actually an awesome friend of the show. Go Kennesaw State, pointing out FSU's fishing for the higher revenue share. I think that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they kind of deserve it. So some of you guys follow Ryan's. Ryan does the D1 360 Conference Realignment channel. If you don't follow him, he's awesome. Ryan actually really did some great analysis of 10 years of TV data for the ACC, Pac-12, and Big 12. And he broke it out so it was only looking at games between teams in those three conferences, the going forward. So taking out USC, taking out UCLA, taking out Texas, taking out Oklahoma. And what he found, which we've done some more data on this and really validated it. When I did some data work, we found that 65% of viewership is just purely what channel it's on. So the thing about Florida State's numbers here is they're showing this. Yeah, Florida State has a lot higher numbers, but that's because Florida State is a big brand, so they put them on ABC and NBC, and they're not NBC, but they're on the big channels, and so more people watch them. But even when you correct for that, and you break it out actually by channel, which we've got here again, Ryan did this work. Ryan's brilliant. He's an awesome. He's works in accounting in Chicago. Really, really smart guy. What you still see here is that Florida State is among those three conferences. Florida State is still the number one driver of views across any channel, or averages across any channel. And so it was Florida State, Oregon, Louisville, Washington, Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, Wazoo, Oklahoma State were the top 9. Utah 10. So Florida State has a pretty good argument for why they should be. Florida State on ABC, for example, averages 4.2 million. You get down, Oklahoma State's 4, next in the Big 12, Kansas State's 2.9, West Virginia's 3. So you start to see some drops. And to guys, I'm sorry, it's hard to read. It's on Twitter. You can pull it there, or just DM me and I can send you a copy if you want. But it is, Florida State is number one, really, even when you control for channel. So they certainly have a really good argument for why they should have more money if they can get it.
Very key in all of that is that I noticed that they had a huge advantage on ESPNU. But it actually does show that even when they're on ESPNU, that they almost pull a 1 rating. It's a 0.83 versus everybody else considerably down from that, 30-40% less.
No, it really is. And it's a big thing. And in Louisville, of course, this was looking at 10 years of data. So Louisville was really successful in that. So I was actually impressed overall by the Louisville TV data.
And you have to know that it just kills Florida State to make that much less money than Florida. Some people are reporting, well, Florida State now, they won out of the ACC. They want to go to. They're about 4 years too soon to want to break away, because they really have hopes of joining the Big Ten. They've got AAU coming. They've applied. It sounds like they're going to be getting it, and that's, what the Big Ten is looking for. They don't have that right now. So will the Big Ten, if Florida State were to get out, let's say miraculously, I don't think the Big Ten takes them. I think they stick to their guns about AAU, and I think that's why Florida State is just using this now as, let's get some unequal revenue sharing. Let's close the gap a little bit. It's not going to, they're not going to make the whole 30 million up. Maybe they make 5-10 million up, and they carry on for another 8 to 10 years.
I'll tell you guys, and this is not a prediction. This is not inside information. This is just what I would do if I were Florida State and those guys. You have your media money. I don't think you get people to start giving up their media money, but you have playoff money that's about to come in, and you're about to get a lot of playoff money coming in, a fortune. Remember that 20 million we showed? Like an extra 10 million a year per team is going to be playoff money. My just guess of what I would do if I was Florida State is I would be positioning myself and starting to shake my fist a lot, so that as that new playoff money is signed and contracted in, you want the conference to hand that out in an uneven way that says, for example, if you make the playoffs, you get, making this up, half the playoff money. So it's saying like, hey, Boston College, you don't get very much of the playoff. You can keep your equal share of media money, but we at Florida State are going to take 3 times. We're going to take your playoff money. We're going to take Wake Forest playoff money, and we're going to take so-and-so's playoff money because we've earned it. And the Pac-12 is probably going to do the same thing. Because remember, the Pac-12 guys had the whole successful era of the Pac-12 from 1959 until Larry Scott screwed the pooch in 2012. The Pac-12 had uneven revenue distribution based on your wins and number of times on TV. So what I would think that Florida State is setting up for here is to say they're not going to get people to give up the money that they're already due. But when the new money comes in, I would guess that it's set up in an uneven handout way. That's not inside information. That's just like how I could very easily see this going down.